features live coverage of an...
And what an incredible start to our live safari journey here in the middle of the African wilderness where lions, leopards and elephants roam free. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
And welcome on your live safari journey here in the middle of the African bush in this beautiful vast expanse right up in the top northeastern corner of South Africa. A vast and open area of wilderness, 4 million hectares, 8.5 million acres of conservation area, and as you can see, the bright green flush, a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. So a place that has been voted one of the world's most beautiful countries. I am sitting comfortably in the tent that you can see down there. You can see the vast open area of the green expanse of what we know as quarantine clearings, and of course the camps over there. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Rion is on camera with me, and we are coming to you live, as I said, from Djuma. And a very, very warm welcome to the 3 schools joining us today from Lease Corner and College Park and the Sutherland Elementary Schools. It's lovely to have you on board, and I hope you are all very, very excited. And we've got 2 vehicles out. We've got Taylor in one vehicle, we've got FVR in the other, and it is in fact a very special day today because it is FVR's birthday. So all of our viewers around the world, if you can join in wishing him a very, very happy birthday. I hope he's having an amazing day. Now, for our new viewers or anybody joining us for the first time, we will be conducting a school drive, so we will be with kids for the first few moments of our show. But you can still send through your questions because you're still on the live safari with us, and you can do that on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV. Now, as you can see, I am sitting in what James describes as the best office in the world, and I have to agree with him on that. If you're not out on walk or if you're not out on the back of the vehicle, this is a fantastic place to be. We get bushbuck visiting us. I found a Dwarf Mongoose underneath the tent when I first came here this afternoon to set it all up and to open up the tent. There was a tiny little creature called a Dwarf Mongoose hiding underneath the canvas of the tent, right down there, and scurried away and shot off into the distance once it realized that I was intent on being in here. Hey, intent, haha. As you can see, we've got the wall of bones behind me, so all kinds of fascinating things to show you a little bit more about the different creatures out here and the way that they interact with each other, and it's a really, really special way to experience life out here. We've got a microscope that will give you a closer look at certain things, and of course a camera looking over a waterhole. Right, without any further ado, I'm sure you're all excited to get out there on safari. Let's go over to FW for him to say hello.
Oh, let me just get past this bush. Hi there folks, my name is FW, and with me on camera I've got Darby this afternoon.
Happy birthday, FV.
Thanks Darby, putting me in trouble early on. So our plan for this afternoon is I want to see all the big cats for my birthday. So this morning I saw leopard and cheetah, and this afternoon we've got plans to try and find some lions. So we're on Arathusa and starting to scan around if there's anything on lion in this area. So fingers crossed, let's keep this the luck rolling from this morning and see if we get lucky. Then maybe later on we'll go So happy birthday to Sutherland Elementary. It's your 8th birthday today. Congratulations. So I've got someone that I share a birthday with. Awesome. Yeah, the 3rd of January is a lucky day for our family. I share a birthday with my mum and my cousin as well. So big family celebrations normally. Yo, I nearly thought I got lucky. I saw a termite mound sticking out and it looked like the same color as a lion. It was still a small termite mound. So later on in the drive, if we get lucky with the lions, we're going to head over to Chitwa and see if we can maybe see some crocodile and hippo as well. But for now, let's work the magic and try and find some lions. So Mrs. Cowell, you'd like to know the weather this afternoon. It is a nice, steamy 32 degrees centigrade. Now I need to do a quick conversion. What that would be in Fahrenheit. 32, 33, not 32, and 92 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, nice and humid this afternoon, nice and cloudy as you can see. So it doesn't feel as hot as it is, especially with us moving around. Just look at all the cloud cover. But the humidity is quite tough. We might get a bit of rain later tonight, so we'll keep our fingers crossed for that as well. Well, let's keep moving. Let's see if we can find some animals. So while we keep looking for some game, we're going to head over to Taylor, who wants to say hello.
I do want to say hello, but first, this beautiful big bird that goes by the name of a black-bellied bustard wants to say hello, but now it's gone. First bird of the morning, not the morning, the afternoon, so that's not a bad way to start the drive. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me this afternoon is Brian. And are you ready for this? The summer speedo thumb. Ooh, ooh. Feel like you should have put like Hawaiian leaves around it. Little coconuts, you know, I don't know. Right, that's the thumb. Now welcome to all of the lovely children who are watching today. We're so happy to have you here. And remember, it's Evie's birthday today, and birthdays are very, very special days. So happy birthday to you. Should we sing happy birthday very quickly, Brian? I don't know if Jamie would have sang happy birthday yet. Right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Evie. Happy birthday to you. There we go. We hope you have a splendid day. And that's why Brian and I do what we do, and we're not in a choir. But anyways, we are actually driving past quite a few mud wallows at the moment, and I'm still in hot pursuit of tadpoles. Look at that little mud wallow. What's in there? What are those things on top of the water? Can you see them, Brian? Those little heads poking out. They're quite close to the island. Yes. Oh, look who we've got. Those eyes tell it all. It's the terrapins lurking in all of the mud. But you can just see eyes. But now, if you haven't seen a terrapin before, you might know them as turtles, sort of freshwater turtles. But we call them terrapins because the turtles that we know are the ones that live in the ocean with the flippers. But they're quite happily living in here, munching away on all the different insects that will be living in, well, this very dirty, murky water. I don't know if I'd want to live in here. I think it's a breeding pool filled with insects, mosquito larvae, and lots of other things. And sadly, no frogs. Now, frogs are one of my favorite things in the whole world. Hello, Damien. Damien, you were wondering if there are many germs in Africa. I think there's probably about the same amount of germs that we have here that there are in the rest of the world. There's just obviously a couple of diseases that maybe aren't as prolific as to where you are, so as you know, they don't occur in abundance. But out here in the wild, disease is natural. It's natural everywhere, and it's very important, diseases and viruses, to control the populations of the animals, so to try and keep the animals from overpopulating, so getting too many of them, and that's very important. We've obviously got the big lions and leopards and hyenas and all the carnivores that will control the herbivore population, so the animals that eat the vegetation, but then you also need something that will help control the populations of the predators. Now, look what has happened here. Brian, do you think I can move this tree? Let's try. Right, are you ready to watch me try and move this tree? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be strong enough today. Right, let's see. Oh, it's almost.
You've almost got it.
Almost got it.
There we go. Oh, so close.
Oh, it's just too strong for me. Those pesky elephants pushing down the trees in the middle of the road. But we tried. And I think that this is even too big for me to move with the vehicle. Because sometimes what you are able to do, you have a smaller tree and you can actually push it out the way with the big bull bars that we have in front. But not this one. This is a job for a chainsaw. And well, unfortunately the elephants were eating on the roots and they decided that the tree needs to go. You can see how they've been munching away on them, and they make for a delicious snack. Not now though. I think now it's a little bit better because there's lots of green grass, lots of leaves around, there's plenty of food. Now, I'm going to send you back across to Evia, who has got one of the, well, not the fastest moving animals.
So we have found a leopard tortoise. I heard you saw some terrapins with Taylor, so I thought I'd show you this beautiful leopard tortoise. Although it's in a hurry, I don't know where it wants to go. It's just walked over the road that we were driving on and now into the bush, hiding from us. Disappeared. You can see there's some ants moving around on those branches, and that's also disappeared now. Hey, let's just give this guy a second or two to come out. Normally you can pick them up, but this year is a bit different. I don't want to pick them up this year at all. Don't want to bother them. It's been an exceptionally dry year until very recently, so with these tortoises and stuff, you don't want to pick them up because what they do is they excrete fluids when you pick them up as a way of defending themselves, and those fluids are also there as a reserve for them, so don't want to bother it. If he doesn't move out, we'll just move the vehicle again and get a better look at him, but let's give it a second or two to decide what it wants, if it wants to come out or not. Come on, tortoise. These guys can get quite old. They can get maybe up to 100 years old. If I'm not mistaken, this is the second largest of the tortoises we find in southern Africa. I don't know which one's the biggest though, but I don't think this is the largest one in our area. Is he coming out again? Ah, yeah, you can just see his very scaly leg. Oh, I've got a bug on me. Very pretty bug. I won't get to show that to you now. Let's see if this guy wants to move. How amazing those colors are. Don't make me twist my arm off to try and show it to the people. some reason I can't remember this bug's name now. Some sort of a moth. So cool. Let's put it up on the dashboard. Oh, and it's off. Sorry, moth. Right. Well, should we move around and try and see that tortoise again? Well, I think what we'll do, we'll carry on, see if we can find some mammal species, and then we're going to head over to Jamie and see what she's up to in the tent.
Now, you've just been looking at that incredible creature with FW, that's a tortoise. And before that, you were looking at a terrapin with tailor. That's beautifully alliterative, isn't it? A terrapin with tailor. So what I thought we'd look at is the way in which a tortoise shell works and the way that it protects these incredible, incredible creatures. Now, before we go too much into exactly how a tortoise shell works and how they live inside it, just a reminder that quite often what happens is people tend to talk about turtles meaning everything. But it's not just turtles in this world. A turtle is a thing with flippers that swims in the sea. A terrapin is a thing with feet, but with sort of kind of webbed feet that can swim in water but can also walk on land. And then a tortoise is what you were looking at with FW. Now, this shell is very, very old, but it does give us a really nice example to examine the way that a tortoise works. This shell is solid bone. So this is the tortoise's skeleton. And if we were to look inside it, we'd actually see that the backbone or the vertebra, just like you have your spinal column, runs all the way along here, but attached to this bone, and then it's got ribs that run down the side like this. And you can see it's actually made of plates that are fused together to create a really, really useful, basically a little house for the tortoise to live in. And when they get scared, what they do, because the front legs would stick out here and the head would stick out over here and their back legs would stick out over here. So their back legs would stick out here. And that's how they're protected, because they can pull themselves in. Now, this was quite a tiny, tiny little tortoise, but Tali, you wanted to know how much will a tortoise weigh. They can get up to a good couple, maybe even 20 kilograms, which is about close to 50 pounds, a big leopard tortoise, because as FW told you, it is the biggest tortoise species that we get out here. So they can get very, very heavy indeed. But this was just a tiny one. Unfortunately, it didn't make it. I don't know what killed it. It could have been a number of different things, but this tortoise was probably only a couple of years old. Now, if we look over here, because of course the tortoise you were looking at with FW didn't look like this. But look here, it's covered with a substance known as keratin, and that's the same as my fingernail that I'm using to point it out to you. And these are called the scoots. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? The scoots of a tortoise, or the shoots actually, and it's keratin layers that grow, and that's what gives the leopard tortoise its amazing colors, and of course gives the leopard tortoise its name. Now here, this part here is how you can tell the difference between a male tortoise and a female tortoise. Now, as FW told you, we didn't want to pick up any tortoises at the moment because it's been very, very dry and they need all the water they can get, so we don't want to scare them into releasing the water that they have stored. But if you look at the bottom part of a tortoise, the part known as a plastron, that is what tells you if it's a boy tortoise or a girl tortoise. In a girl, this is flat. So this tortoise, when it was alive, was a girl. It was a female tortoise. But in the boys, this is curved almost inwards, almost like it's sucking its belly right up towards its back. It's got a little curve that kind of goes in like this towards the back of the shell. So that would be what the bottom of a boy tortoise would look like, but this was a girl. And I'm going to pop her back on the shelf for a quick moment. And Tari, if you wanted to know how many babies can a tortoise have, it depends on the species of tortoise. Now, I'm not sure about turtles, but I can talk about tortoises. A leopard tortoise lays between 6 and 20 eggs in one clutch. So 6 to 20 babies, but that will depend on how old the tortoise is, because of course the bigger she is, the more eggs she can lay, which is a fantastic thing about tortoises. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Whether an egg of a tortoise hatches, whether it's a boy or a girl, will depend on how warm that little egg was when it was underneath the ground. So if it was very, very hot, it will be a different sex to if it was very, very cold. So it will either be a boy or a girl depending on how warm it was when it was what's known as incubated, or in other words, where the egg was left somewhere safe and secure till the baby was big enough to hatch and to go out. Now, turtles lay much more eggs, that's not English. They lay many more eggs than our tortoises do, but I'm not quite sure exactly how many they will. And of course, they'll go out onto the surface of the land. Right, I think we've spoken enough about reptiles now. I think you should go over to Taylor and have a look at the biggest land mammal we get out here.
We are watching the funniest young elephant bull who is being attacked by some sort of a biting fly at the moment. You can see he keeps trying to kick his stomach with his legs, and he's a little bit shy. He's quite a young boy. It's okay. Let's see if we can go a little bit further again and get a better gap. Now he's all on his lonesome. I don't know where his family is. Perhaps he has been told to live... No! I can see another one. Here it comes too. Maybe we'll leave him and we'll watch this. There's another young bull. We're going to just try and get a better view because our young elephant friend, he might come... Look at him! I don't know where to look because we've got a nice elephant, but then Brian, he's being very funny, eh? Isn't he? Watch him. He hides behind the bushes and then he tries to chase us. He's trying to assert his dominance over us. He's trying to make us scared of him, but we're not scared of him, and he doesn't need to behave like this because we're not here to hurt him. We're just here to watch him. But sometimes these young boys, they can get a little bit rowdy and they like to try and challenge the vehicles. Now, Quentin, you were wondering how much do elephants weigh? Now, they can get quite large, and I reckon that this elephant over here is probably around maybe 4,000 pounds. Does that sound about right to you, Brian? Is that the correct conversion? It's something along those lines. He's not particularly big. He's still quite small, but when he is fully grown, he probably weigh almost 10,000 pounds, somewhere around there, so they can get really, really, really big. But he's still got a lot of growing to do. He's probably only about maybe 16 or 17 years old. And he's really only going to be in the prime of his life, so he'll be in the biggest, and he'll be able to compete with the other male elephants when he gets to about 30 years old. So he's still got 15 years or so of growing. But he's a lovely bull. Now, I'm just looking over my shoulder because that other young elephant is sneaking behind us, and I wonder if he's going to go to a little mud wallow. Maybe he will. He doesn't look like he's had a mud bath just yet, like this other elephant has. Though he's hiding behind the trees, so it makes it very difficult for you to see how he's splashed mud on his body. I think let's try reposition. We'll try and turn around very quickly so we can get a good view of this other Ellie. I hope there's no rocks that side. We'll just take a little gamble. No, he's also disappearing. That's very rude. Come back, elephants. He's making a run for a tree. This one looks a little bit older. Oh, sorry, Brian. Big bump there. No, guys. Why are you going in the bushes? They were all hiding away from us. Maybe we'll get him if we go backwards. But this is what the wild animals do. They make you run around and you have to chase after them. It's terrible. Now you can just see their little ears moving and his tail, of course, swatching around. And none of them wanted to be viewed today. Now, Mrs. Talbot, you're wondering if there are any animals that are endangered. There actually are. There's quite a number of different species of animals. Cheetah, some beautiful birds called southern ground hornbills, even lions to some extent. Ah, there we go. Now we can see him. He's going to come out into this little gap now. And there are many, many other different creatures. The pangolin you might know as an armadillo. And very sadly, The pangolin, or armadillo as it's also known as, is the #1 trafficked mammal in the world. So people will poach them and they will eat their meat. They will use the different body parts for various medicinal uses, which is very, very sad. And of course elephants, like this one that we're looking at. Not particularly in this area, but they were poached many years ago, and some poaching still goes on in the rest of the African countries like Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, where people will kill these elephants for their tusks. Okay, I'll just try roll forward for you, Brian. There we go. A little bit better. So it's very, very sad. So that's why we do everything that we do out here to promote conserving not just the wildlife, but also the vegetation out here, because there's quite a few different plants that are also quite rare and people will dig up. And one that I'm very familiar with, but I haven't seen any up here. I don't know if you get cycads up here, but cycads, where I'm from, in the southeastern corner of South Africa, were heavily poached as well. They're exceptionally valuable. They used to try and protect those too. Now, I mentioned that these boys are quite young, and David, you were wondering how old can an elephant live for? They can live for about 60 years, anywhere between 60 and 70 years or so. And you can see when this elephant feeds, you see how he pulls the grass up and he shakes all the sand off of it? You see that? Almost bangs it underneath his stomach. He's actually doing 2-in-1 things. He's probably swatting the flies by doing that. And then, of course, getting rid of the soil. And it's important that they try and shake off all the sand and all that type of stuff off of their food, because that means that their teeth will wear down a lot quicker than they normally, well, what they should do. And this actually determines how old an elephant can live for. So if we have very bad droughts like the one we've just experienced, we're very lucky though, it seems to be the end of it, as we keep getting lots and lots of rain and the vegetation is now nice and green. But in the winter months it becomes, and then of course the drought, it becomes very, very difficult for these elephants. And their teeth will wear down a lot quicker than what they should. Now it's still nice and warm here, so we still might get lucky. Let me go forward again. I'm going to just roll forward. Luckily we're on a little bit of an incline, which is very helpful this afternoon. There he is. Can you hear that bird in the distance? It's such a beautiful call. Sounds like there's a spurfowl shouting, and then as well as the crested barbet going prrrr. Look how strong this elephant is. Look how he pushes over that tree. Now remember, we saw that tree fall that had been pushed over in the middle of the road. It probably would have been an elephant bull like this that would have done something along those lines. But he's not trying to eat the roots or the bark. He's trying to eat the nice green grass that is hidden underneath all those branches. Now, Trevin, you were wondering how many babies do elephants have? They have one at a time, and they normally have a baby every 4 to 5 years. But not these ones. These ones can't have babies because they're boys. And hopefully, maybe this afternoon we get lucky, we find a breeding herd. So the breeding herds are the ones that have all the mothers and all of their babies together. The boys, once they reach a certain age, normally about 15, 16 years old, they get told, right, it's time to leave home and you go and learn about life. And then they sort of tail the breeding herds. But these boys, I think they've got each other as company, and that's good enough for the two of them. I think they're learning to be strong, independent men. But he's loving that grass. Now I have a question for all of you that are watching. I hope you're ready for this. How much do you think an elephant needs to eat every single day? And I'll give you let's do it, make it easy. Let's say how much in percentage of its body weight does it have to eat every day? Does it need to eat 30% of its body weight every single day? Does it need to eat 5%? Does it need to eat 10%? So ask your teachers to send through your answers, and let's see who gets the closest percentage how much does an elephant need to eat every day, but how much of its body weight is what we're looking for. Right, well, we're gonna have to keep trying to move because these elephants keep hiding themselves away. We'll go backwards this time. We'll practice reversing. And maybe we'll find our other cheeky friend who's very funny to watch this afternoon. Let's see. Let's see if we can get another gap. Oh no, they're moving into some very thick vegetation. Now, Miss Amari, you were actually wondering where are these elephants' parents? I think, Brian, maybe we'll catch them again. So the elephants have just disappeared into this very, very thick vegetation. We're going to go down this road and we might get another view of them. So, Miss Amari, like I said, they live with their mothers. The males don't really play a part in the breeding herds. They just sort of come around for a little bit and then that's it, and then off they go. They don't raise their young. And normally with the boys, when they get to about 15, 16 years old, they disappear and go off on their own and start the solitary life until they're old enough and big and strong enough, and when they can mate with the females. Oh. Now, Sutherland School, you've all guessed that it's about 30% of the elephant's body weight. Now, we won't. Sorry, Kirsty said something else, but I didn't hear her. Right, didn't hear her again. There we go. Leeds and Sutherland Elementary, you've both guessed 30% of their body weight. Ooh, not quite, almost. I'll let you all have one more guess. One more guess. How much do you think an elephant needs to eat every day? 30% is quite a lot, so think a little bit lower than that. Now, another answer's come through from Sutherland. You've guessed 50%, a little bit too much. Almost. Okay, if we get one more view of these elephants, I will tell you. Let's see, maybe we get lucky here. See, it's very difficult now because the vegetation is so green, which is wonderful, but sometimes it makes it difficult for us to find the animals. There he is, he's hiding again. Let's go up a little bit further. And you've just got to try and find the perfect gap, which can be, a whole herd of elephants, baby elephants. Yay! Hi guys! So we're just sneaking up to them. But here's a little elephant for you to look at. Oh, mountain climbing. Just duck out of the screen. Now it doesn't look like a particularly big herd of elephants. I can count 1, 2 big females and then 2 calves. Maybe there's some more around. But like I said, it is so difficult to spot them. Oh, we're getting closer. Sutherland Elementary, you've said again, for how much does an elephant have to eat? You've guessed between 24 and 28%. Still a little bit too high. So the correct answer is 5% of their body weight. That's quite a lot of food. Can you imagine trying to eat 5% of your body weight? You'd have to eat the whole day and not stop. You wouldn't even be able to breathe. You'd have to give up breathing and you just have to take on eating, which would be an interesting challenge. But an elephant will eat for 19 hours a day. That's a long time. Moving around, searching for all the food that they can feed on. And we'll see if we can stick with these elephants for a little bit longer, but they're now also disappearing into this very, very thick vegetation. So we're going to go back across to Jamie, and she's got a scary skull to show you.
A very scary skull, and in fact a very scary start. I hope I didn't scare any of you. Those are part of our school drive. Right, now Taylor and I are going to keep you guessing this afternoon. Well, it is afternoon for us here in Africa. It's morning, of course, where you are. Taylor was asking you how much an elephant needs to eat. I've got a slightly different question. So you've been looking at our biggest land mammal, and of course it is a herbivore. Now I've got 2 other of our big mammals to show you, or at least what's left of them. And I want to ask you a question. I want to see if you can tell me which animals these skulls came from. Now, it's not a trick question because I don't expect you to know, I don't know, an obscure antelope, for example. I don't expect you to know that. But it is both of these animals are the animals that you think of when you think of African mammals. So let us start with this particular skull, the scary one. It's something that's got quite sharp incisors, very good for biting. But if we have a look at its teeth, and in order to have a look at its teeth, I'm actually going to dismantle it because otherwise I'm scared of breaking it. And then the man who usually works in this tent, James, is going to be very, very cross with me, so I don't want to do that. Have a look at its teeth. So its teeth are very, very flat molars. There's no sharp canines or anything like that, so it's not a predator. It's not a creature that catches and eats meat. It's something that does a lot of chewing and a lot of chewing of plants. So what do you think this might be? It might be a skull that some of you have seen before. Think about the shape of the head. It's long. It's very long. Much longer than me. So long, in fact, to have inspired certain jokes, I would say, or at least the same member of the family. So it's something with a very long face, sideways facing eyes. So it's something that gets hunted by other animals because it's got to be able to look in cover as much ground as possible with its eyes. So it's got eyes on the side of its head, not in the front of its head like we do because we're predators. So we've got eyes front facing. This animal's got eyes on the side. It's got a long nose, quite sharp incisor teeth for biting off grass, perhaps. So what do you think that animal is? And Sutherland, well done. Oh dear, now I've given it an overbite. Sutherland, well done. You guessed a zebra. Very, very well done. It is in fact a zebra. It is not in fact the other thing that you guessed. So this is a zebra, very similar to a horse skeleton. I can't put it back together again. This, on the other hand, is a giraffe, a very, very large giraffe. Now, these are two animals that would not be able to take to the skies. However, we do have a way of looking at things from a different perspective. Let's go and have a look at what the drone is seeing. And just look at that dark, stormy clouds and what looks like a pair of vultures soaring around it. Now remember, this is happening right here and right now, so what you're watching is happening over here. And these two vultures are doing what's known as thermaling. So what they're doing is they're gathering up the warm air from the hot, hot day that we've had, and they're using it to soar. Those wide wings, incredibly wide wings, that stretch out. If you stretch your arms out, now grab the hand of the person next to you, and that is how wide a vulture's wings are. If you both stretch your arms out, they're very, very big birds. So you see how they're only having to flap once or twice, and then they soar along, and that's because they're using the hot air currents. Isn't that beautiful? Soaring along. You can see the dark skies gathering. Big, deep grey clouds. Perhaps we'll have some rain as well. And I'm sorry, they're not vultures. They're another big bird. No, it is a vulture. It's definitely a vulture. That flew so close. That was amazing. How cool is that? Soaring past our camera. Gliding along. Wings outstretched. See, look at the detail on the ends of the feathers. Those wings right at the tip. See how there's a gap between the ones at the end so that the vulture can direct its flight. That is amazing. Right up high. Our vultures have been recorded flying all the way up to the height of a commercial airplane. So right up to 32,000 feet is the highest recorded vulture. That is so cool to be able to keep up with a bird like that. Now, when I say a vulture's wingspan is huge, those were white-backed vultures, by the way. We get lots of different types of vultures. When I say the vulture's wingspan is huge, I've got a photo of me next to a drawing of a vulture with my arms stretched out like this. And I mean, I'm not the biggest person in the world, but I'm not that small. And the vulture's wingtip would stretch from one end of this tent almost to the other. That's how wide their wings are when they stretch them out. And then they use that to utilize the thermals and to soar and to basically glide along and look for something that they can feed on. Our vultures have very, very good eyesight indeed. And that's led to this belief that they could actually predict where the carcasses are. That's not true. They don't predict anything, but it's just because they fly so high and they can see so well. They've got binocular vision to zoom in on the things that they see on the ground. But unfortunately, what that's actually ultimately led to is it has led to this idea that if you use a vulture's, sorry, I'm looking for a big feather that I saw earlier, but it seems to have flown away, which is utterly devastating. I know I saw one. I wanted to show you how the feathers work. But it's led to this belief that the vulture's brains will allow you to see into the future, which is tragic because that means that people start to kill them and use their brains in basically fake medicine. In South Africa, it's known as muti. In different parts of the world, it's called traditional medicine. It's fake medicine that uses animal parts in order to transmit these magical properties. But they're not magical at all. It's completely misunderstood. I promise you there was a big feather here when I first came in, and I can only think that it's gone flying. It wanted to take to the skies again. It's disappeared. That's so sad. All that's left is just little ostrich feathers. Light, fluffy ostrich feathers. That's not what I was looking for at all. Because ostriches, of course, can't fly nearly. They can't fly at all. So their feathers don't even have to be in the same shape as a vulture's feather. How unfortunate. Now to knack, while we're talking about different skulls and herbivores and carnivores, vultures, of course, are scavengers. You want to know if there are more carnivores here or if there are more herbivores. The answer to that is there are more herbivores than carnivores. And there's a very, very good reason behind that. There's something known as basically an energy pyramid. So the plants gather the energy from the sun and they convert it into energy they can use. The herbivores come and eat that. And then the carnivores that need to eat once every 3 or so days, they then feed off the herbivores. But if there were as many predators as there are herbivores, this is a predator, this is a leopard skull, not a lion, but a leopard. See how those got those long front teeth to help it bite down and clamp into its prey? If there were more carnivores than there are herbivores, the carnivores would run out of food because they'd eat everything out here, all of the herbivores, and then they wouldn't have anything to eat. So all of the herbivores would die, and then all of the carnivores would die after that. So nature's really very good at keeping the balance between carnivores and herbivores, and there's always more herbivores. Now imagine if an elephant had to eat meat. Imagine that. Just think about that for a second. Imagine if an elephant were a carnivore. There's no way that they could get that big because, as Taylor said, they need to eat 5% of their body weight per day. So if it's a big elephant, if it's a 5-ton elephant, that is a huge amount of food. That's nearly 300 kilograms. That's over 600 pounds. Aha. There's the little chap that was here earlier. Can you still see it, Rian? I want to show you the smallest of our carnivores. He's... Can you just see the tiny, tiny little carnivore? This is the smallest of all of our carnivores. I can't even see him, Rian. Well spotted. He's disappeared. They're one of my favorite creatures. They're about this big. They kind of look a little bit like a ferret or a marten, something similar size, and they are tiny, voracious little carnivores. They will eat something like the bugs that are on this board. That would be something they would eat. They would eat bugs like that. They would eat scorpions. They might even, if they found something like this, eat a giant land snail. So the smallest carnivores. But I was talking about if elephants were carnivores. The world can handle tiny little dwarf mongoose eating insects and so on, but it definitely couldn't handle carnivorous elephants because an elephant would need to eat so many different animals to survive. So that's why one of the big reasons why elephants are so big is because they eat plants, and that's the only thing out here that there's enough of them for an elephant to eat. So how cool is that? Right, now speaking of our carnivores, I'm sure you all want to see one. Let's go over to FW, see what he's found.
So we have completed the big cat circle for the day. Beautiful lions. This is the Tsalala Pride. It's the same pride that was hunting buffalo yesterday with James. So they've moved quite a distance from where they were yesterday. Doesn't look like they've eaten, so maybe they'll try again tonight, who knows. So it looks like 3 young males, maybe around 3 years old I would guess, and then the 2 adult lionesses. Sean, a very good question from you. How many babies can a lion have? Now, it depends. It varies maybe between 1 to 4, I would say. But mostly 2, yeah, let's make it 2 to 4. A single cub might not have the best chances of survival. So if the mum has a few different cubs, there's better chances of survival for the cubs, and it's worth the effort. How do you like my little birthday present to myself? Just a bit of mud on the eyes, and I'm using that to get rid of this glare this afternoon. But let's get back to these lions. One's head up and looking around, the other one's flopped back down again, and the 3 boys are very lazy, not wanting to do much. Please lift your hips. So everyone from Sutherland in Elementary would like to know if elephant babies are prey to lions. It does unfortunately happen from time to time that they do fall prey, but their one big defense is a very big mummy. So mum can protect them very well, and elephants are very, very, very protective of their young, and they won't let animals or predators like lions get too close to them in any case. But here and there it will happen, unfortunately, yeah. But these guys, their prey would mostly be buffalo, zebra, wildebeest, maybe a kudu or waterbuck. So medium-sized prey, not really the large ones that we get out here. It's also a much safer bet for them to try and hunt something like that than try and take a young elephant and have to contend with a few of the bigger ones. It's going to be uncomfortable and difficult for them. So kids, this is what lions do best, is sleeping, and they sleep for huge amounts of a day. Maybe 18 hours out of a day just sleeping. How great would life be? I don't think we'd get much done, but yeah. One's up. What's happened to her tail? Davy, do you know what happened with the tail? So she lost her tail to a hyena, and her mother lost it as well. So we'll call them Stompy 1 and 2. Stompy means a stump, so a short little tail. So yeah, Stompy is Afrikaans word. Just look at that face. Hello. Right, folks. All the kids, it's been lovely to spend the afternoon with you. I'm so glad that we could have showed these lions to you. That was awesome. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. Have a lovely day further. We're going to head over to Taylor for an update.
hopefully those lions are going to wake up, and well, as the cooler weather approaches. Now we find a tiny little antelope, but it's hiding behind a broken branch. Hi, little steenbok. A lovely little male. He didn't look too fat. He actually looked quite sort of slender. I wonder if he's going to pop out. He's slowly coming. Let's go forward a little bit. I wonder if it's maybe not a young male that's just come about. And I always find it so difficult to tell the difference between a fully grown steenbok and, well, a little one, because they're all so tiny. And you can see he's just disappearing. There, I think we'll get a gap. I'm just going to keep rolling with him. You see that? He doesn't look particularly plump like a steenbok would normally do. And I wonder if he's, like I said, maybe just a young one. I think it is a juvenile. Hello, boy. Obviously, the only way we'd really know is if we'd seen it standing with another one. But very, very shy and not hanging around for us. Now, sadly, we didn't have any luck with Karula. I'm not sure where she is. She's probably in a thicket somewhere. We know her sort of traits. She loves to sort of disappear into those areas. So what we are going to do now is we're on Cheetah Cut Line. We're going to start heading down towards Cheetah Plains and see if we can't get into that Nkanyeni sighting. And hopefully the rain will stay at bay just for a little bit while we get there, because we felt a few drips and drops every now and then. I hope we do get rain, but I just hope not now, because that won't be too fun. But it's like the animals know. They're all starting to move off in the thicker vegetation. The wind is now picked up. Oh, who have we got flying over there? Oh, another one. Battaliers. 2 battaliers. You can see they're not having a fun time in the wind today. It looked like it was a juvenile and an adult. The one that was at the back that you just saw disappearing off to the right, that was the adult. And a very, very brief glimpse, of course, of the juvenile. Didn't even see them sitting up there. Right, so let's carry on. Nice to see the little birds. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to hold on to my hat because the wind is now really gusting all of a sudden. Let's go back to Jamie and make sure that she's safe in the tent and not getting blown away.
As the wind picks up, and I'm sure as Taylor's told you, the wind is now howling. That does mean that our drone is going to have to land relatively soon in case it decides to come flying out of the sky. So let's go and have a look quickly at one last shot. There you go. Look at all of our impala. Viewed from above, you can see they're not bothered by the drone at all. A lot of them are now lying down as a way of hiding away from this gusting wind and getting what rest they can before they have to move off. Now just have a look at that tree gusting, just to give you an idea of how strong the wind is now. You can see the wattle almost blowing over. Not quite. That's a slight exaggeration, Jamie. It is definitely gusting very, very hard. I think Taylor is a very brave young lady that she's decided to go to Cheetah Plains. I have made that decision before in weather like this and got myself thoroughly drenched. I wish her the best of luck, and I will have a jolly good chuckle if she does come back soaking wet, because it does look as though it's going to rain. I think it's going to hold off though. I think we've still got a little bit of time before it does come down. But of course, any rain that we get is good news. It's good news for the animal, it's good news for the vegetation, it's good news for the grass. I'm not going to show you this grass now though, because I haven't finished preparing what I wanted to prepare, so you can't have a look at it just yet. One thing I wanted to talk about actually was and I'll grab it over here now, was the scorpion that we saw during the live TV show. Now, I was going to show you this scorpion underneath the microscope in order to give you a little bit further instruction about the reproductive process of the scorpion. However, upon opening the jar, how does James describe it? I was assailed by a scent that could only have come from the bowels of hell. Is that James's standard? Yeah, that was one of those smells. So the scorpion that we've collected in our jar died a natural death. It's now growing mold on one side, and underneath it is slightly grungy and slightly slimy. I've already disinfected my hands once because I didn't think. I just opened and tipped it onto my hand. It is in the process of decomposing quite beautifully. Perhaps we should invest in some formaldehyde for some of the specimens of this tent. But what I wanted to show you is the reproductive opening of the scorpion, so that we could talk a little bit about the fascinating process of scorpions' births. Now, on the television show a couple of days ago, whenever it was, I've lost track, we saw one of these, which is a burrowing scorpion with its offspring on its back. Now, I know that you've been fortunate enough to see the Europlectes scorpions with their little babies, but you haven't had a chance to see an opisthothalamus before, at least not while I've been around or on bushwalk. And I was utterly astounded by the sheer size of those baby scorpions on him. A scorpion, she was actually roughly this size, so she was about this size as our decomposing, slightly rotten scorpion in here, which I'm not going to take out of the jar again. She was roughly that size, and her babies were around about this side, thick, almost grub-like creatures. They were really quite truly revolting, sitting on her back. I know that sounds terrible because I actually quite like baby scorpions, and I always enjoy seeing them. But these particular ones were very soft-shelled and very pale-looking, and they looked as though at first I actually thought she was being attacked by a snake. Now, what's interesting about that is a lot of the time, particularly for our burrowing scorpions, the mothers don't emerge at all in the first 2 weeks of their offspring's lives, and that's because they're so busy being wrapped up in that temperate environment that they're in. And that usually takes between 9 to 14 days before the little baby scorpions molt and their exoskeleton starts to harden and they're ready to go out into the big, wide and very scary world. And during that time, the mother doesn't eat, she doesn't sleep, she doesn't sleep, she doesn't eat, and she doesn't leave the burrow to go hunting because, of course, it's very dangerous. Now, we see the Europlectes because we occasionally go and look underneath pieces of bark, but we don't often get to see the mothers of opisthothalamus babies, which we got to see. That was my first time seeing them, which is why at first I was completely and utterly perplexed, especially because I was thinking about trying to find a lion at the same time. Now, what I wanted to show you, okay, we'll just have to block our noses. Let's try and get you the right way up. There we go. So what I wanted to show you was how a scorpion female goes about giving birth, because I bet none of you have ever really, not none of you, most of you haven't really thought about it. Those of you that are arachnophobic perhaps have definitely not thought about it. There, you see, she's getting all slimy. That's revolting. Now, what happens is they form a body posture known as stilting. So when the mother is ready to give birth, when the female scorpion's ready to give birth, she stands up on her, she raises this part, because of course the reproductive opening is underneath the body, obviously not on top, underneath the body, but around here. So around the middle of the scorpion's body, not by the tail. So what she does is what's known as stilting, where she bares her claws, opens them out, keeps them at the ready in case she's under threat. She raises this part of her body up above the ground, quite far above the ground, and then she tucks her front 2 legs underneath her to make what's known as I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called a labor basket or a receiver basket or something like that. So essentially, she creates, oh, that smell, let's put it away. No, scorpion, you are far too smelly. Go in there. There we go. You get the idea. So she raises it up, but basically what she's doing is she creates a cradle for her babies underneath her body, which I think is really, really cool. Because we don't think of, spiders are pretty useless mothers in terms of how things go. It's kind of a sort of lay the eggs and leave them. But scorpions actually invest time and interest in their babies, which is unusual. Unusual in the insect world. And not only will she care for them, if, for example, one of them were to fall off her body, if she were to drop one, for example, she's very, very closely bonded to them by scent, which isn't what you'd expect at all, I think, with a scorpion. You don't really think of a scorpion as being an animal with a particularly strong sense of smell, but they can and they do smell, and she'll go and gather up her little ones as a way of recollecting them, and she'll pick it up. I don't know how she picks it up. I've never seen it before. I assume with pincers, perhaps with her legs, and puts it back on her back in order to keep them safe. So how cool is that? Sorry. Excuse me. James, you say that you wouldn't think that a scorpion could smell so bad. James, me neither. I have to confess I was completely taken aback by that foul stench coming from that particular jar, to quote James. It is perhaps exceeded only by the stench of a dung beetle when kept in a jar for an extended period of times. What did James say when he was describing the dung beetle? It was something along the bowels of hell, but it was something even funnier. I'll try and remember. But in the meantime, let's go back to something else quite pungent. I'm, of course, talking about the lions.
Alright. If you look at this guy on the left of screen, he's been yawning quite a bit as he's grooming himself. But when he opens his mouth, you'll see his bottom right canine is missing. I wonder where he pulled that out. Maybe in a hunt, maybe in a fight. Those two boys at the back are bullying each other and biting each other, nibbling on each other. He's rolled around. Decided to start. There we go. There, the canine's missing. That is crazy. I think it happens a lot more often than we think, that these guys lose their teeth in fights and stuff like that. Fights and hunting big prey, a buffalo or a giraffe maybe got. Sure. There's a whole host of different options for why it could be gone. This is all good signs that they're starting to roll around and grooming one. Well, he's grooming himself. The one female got up and moved off a bit further away. So yeah, let's hope. Let's see if they get active. I think this weather is working in their favor and in our favor to see them moving. So we'll be as patient as we can and stay with them for as long as we can. If there's a lot of interest though from other vehicles that would like to see them as well, we'll move on and maybe come back later. But I think let's try and stick with them for as long as we can and try and see if we can get some movement out of these guys. So Rebecca, you are asking if these males are at the age that they can start to breed. I think they can. I've seen young males like this breeding already. It's not the ideal for them, and it's in areas where there's not a high competition or high density of males, and there's not a lot of competition around. They might then start breeding, being given the opportunity. But in an area like this where there is a lot of competition, I don't think there'll be any breeding from them in the near future, at least maybe a year or so, until they're strong enough to really start doing their thing. I think is breeding is one thing, but protecting your cubs and the territory that you hold is a whole different thing. So that's where the trick comes in, is being able to protect those babies. And I don't think females will take chances with any of those types of situations, having to go through the whole pregnancy, give birth, start looking after their cubs, and then end up losing them easily because these males can't protect them well enough. So I think they've still got a bit of a way to go, yeah. Shame. But the one male's getting his mane combed, but it looks more like his brother's claws are stuck in his mane rather than being getting a comb. Now that's brotherly love. you are asking about how big a pride's territory can get. It varies a lot in areas where the densities are quite low. So let's take the Namib Desert with the desert lions. Their territories are massive, like huge areas, where in an area like this it's a lot smaller. If I have to think quickly, I would work not even 2,000 square kilometers for a male for a territory. But it varies depending on the size of a coalition. All those things will play a role in how big and how many prides there'll be in a territory. Come on, lions. Give us a bit of action. Let's see if you want to move around. Let's keep our fingers crossed, and there's a prey animal that wants to walk in here. Reese, your question, would that female without the tail struggle more in hunting than the others? I don't think it would make too much of a difference in her ability to hunt. I think the only thing it might do is just a bit of visual communication and knowing where the other lions are, or where she is for the other lions. But I don't think it's going to make a massive difference in her ability to take down prey. They don't use the tail in any of that. I think it's more for communication. One tough thing though is if you walk into her, you're going to struggle reading her behavior, because the tail tells us a lot of how this animal is feeling. So if the tail starts swinging around, we know that this cat's not happy with us. We'd better give it space. But yeah, you're going to have to really look closely at her facial expressions and the noises that she'll make to try and figure out if she's happy with us or not. David, do you think we're going to get some movement out of these guys soon?
I hope so.
I really do, eh? All this yawning, all this grooming, all this playing and rolling around each other, it's all good. It's just how long we're going to wait. So, is it going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour? Who knows? We can stick it out for a bit. What do you think? You happy, Ian? Yeah, I reckon so. I think we spend as much time with these guys as we can. So, with regards to these teeth being missing, I don't think it's going to do anything on the hunting part of the line. It's only one tooth. It's still got 3 other canines, and still it's 4 paws with the claws on it to hunt. So no, I don't think that's going to make much of a difference. Maybe later on in life, when the other teeth start getting more blunt, or maybe lose 1 or 2 more, then it'll make a difference. But 1 canine missing, I think it's going to be all good for this lion. I really wonder if we're going to get wet tonight at some stage. It looks promising. It's nice and dark. Clouds keep moving in. Folks, we're going to spend some more time with these lions. I'm going to wait it out and see if we get any action from them. But in the meantime, let's go see what Jamie has got in the tent.